Aloha everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Merissa Indigo. I'm the founder of Divine DNA Blueprint Mystery School, here to bring you a plasma intel stream. And today we're going to be talking about the kind of annual themes and codes and energy that has been coming through for the year of 2023. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Inviting you maybe to have a pen and paper if you want to take some notes. This is going to be a big one. We have a lot to cover. A lot of beautiful information has come through to support us this year. So thank you again for being here. And before we get started, just inviting you to get present and wherever you are while you listen to this, welcoming you and inviting you to take a moment and just take a pause and just take a breath and invite in your fullness. All right, so we're going to jump in here. 2023 adds up to 7, and we're going to share some wonderful code words here to support activation for you for this year, for the qualities of the year with the sacred 7. So 7 resonates with the vibrations and energies of the collective consciousness, faith and spirituality, spiritual awakening and awareness, spiritual enlightenment, spiritual acceptance and development, mysticism, intuition, inner knowing, inner wisdom, psychic abilities, the esoteric, our deepest inner selves, deeper forms of contemplation and introspection, kind of an eccentricity, a uniqueness, can bring in qualities in regards to thoughtfulness, understanding of others, natural healing abilities, secrets, myth, ritual, peace, poise, emotions and feelings, inner strength, endurance and perseverance, persistence of purpose and service mission, the ability to bear hardships, a quick wit, the loner, solitary, long-sighted, the nonconformist, independence and individualism, conscious intentions, manifesting and manifestation in time and in space, good fortune, mental analysis, philosophy, technicality, scientific research and science in general, alchemy, genius, a keen mind, the specialist, the inventor, determination, the written word, logic, understanding, discernment, knowledge seeking, the seekers, the aspirants, study, education and learning, writing and being a writer, evolution, stability, the ability to set limits, completion, refinement, stoicism, silence, perfection, chastity, dignity, the ascetic of the yogi or the monk or the mystic, rigor and ahead of the times. So already this is a really beautiful, bountiful, expanded, mystical quality. We're bringing in a really palpable metaphysical draw this year. The veils are getting thinner and we're really feeling a lot more access than ever before in various ways. And this is different for everyone depending upon their own consciousness and their own journey. But there's a lot less resistance now than ever before for those who seek to understand. So in Chinese astrology, this is the year of the water rabbit. And this is going to be quite an abrupt change of pace from 2022 for us. 2022, we had the water tiger, and the tiger is a very different energy than the rabbit. The tiger is the king of the jungle, a much more ferocious and yang energy, very active and activating. The rabbit has a much more gentle and tender energy. It is known as the most tender animal of the Chinese zodiac. This is the first year where it's really going to feel like water for us in several years with everything that we have experienced. And some of the beautiful invitations this year, as we've already noticed just in January, how it rolled in was definitely the slowest. I felt like we were crawling into 2023 in January. A lot of information was pouring through, but energetically, physically, just feeling like, yeah, it's not 2023 yet. It's just, we're still kind of recovering from the last couple of years and integrating everything. And as such, a lot of the qualities of this water, it's all about the yin, gentleness, slowing down, relaxation, much more of a quietness, a contemplation. And it's really all about self-care this year and kind of revitalizing and regenerating ourselves anew. There's a softer energy, much more presence is invited here, much less hectic than last year because of this double yin quality. The rabbit is a lunar and thus a feminine and watery quality or yin quality of energy. So this year, we're going to have a lot more of that divine feminine energy. And there is much to be learned from water. You know, Bruce Lee said, learn from the water, be like water. And I would say that that is a wonderful way to try to consolidate the invitation of this year into mastery. So for us, the 7 is inviting mastery and an increased perception, a way of vacillating in our vision and in our awareness and what it is that we are exploring and observing. You want to make sure that you are utilizing the medicine of the animal totem of the mouse, which is details and being on the ground, you know, boots on the ground, involved, aware, but you also don't want to live there and get stuck there. And so water is fluid, it's not fixed. So this is going to teach us a lot about fluidity and the quantum nature of reality and how it fluctuates and ripples in direct relation to our consciousness. So we want to be aware of flipping back and forth from the mouse, which is down on the ground, taking in all of the details, looking at each little piece, taking its time, being very thorough, and also switching up and going up into the sky as the eagle and taking in the broad expanse, the horizon, the higher perspective, taking in the big picture. So this is microcosmic with the mouse and macrocosmic with the eagle. So these are some powerful animal totems that can support you this year in mastering a holographic awareness of your reality, of your life, of whatever is presenting itself to you in your immediate reality or experience. And so I want to share how water arrived in my experience. It's been pretty phenomenal. At the end of last year, I made the commitment to be open and to learn more about water and to invite the element of water in all of its different teachings and forms into my life to teach me and to learn from, with the water being my master teacher, so to speak, because it's new. That elemental quality is new for me, and it may be new for many of us, whether we have water present in our charts or not. I am a fire rabbit, so that is my Chinese zodiac, and then the majority of my Western chart is in fire signs. Like most of my personal planets are in Aries, and I'm a Leo rising. So I have Taurus as my sun, which is a little bit of earth, but most of my chart is in fire, different forms of fire as a catalyst here. So water is totally different for me. It's a slowing down, it's a softening, it's a flowing, totally different dynamic. So at the end of last year, I asked the universe, my higher self, the divine, to support me in learning humbly from the water as a master teacher in my life. So immediately, so amazing and so funny, I've got some stories about how water arrived the very first week of January in my reality. It started with when I was seeing clients and was guided to kind of support clients in a guided visualization, kind of a collective grid visual or a prayer of envisioning and asking, as long as it's divinely aligned, of course, as long as it's the highest integrity, win-win, and is aligned, but how wonderful to contemplate and to envision just natural crystalline springs of natural flowing waters popping up. So it's almost as if there's this organic water fountain, like really lovely, perfect, easy flow. How amazing would it be if all of a sudden every village and town and city around the planet, easily and effortlessly in divine alignment, had this amazing spring, a miraculous spring just divinely appear to support the people of that location having free and easy access to clean living water. True, living water, mama's waters, straight from within the earth coming out. And so we were guided to kind of share this visual as a collective prayer and an envisioning and an invitation. A lot of what we do with grid work is essentially injecting positive thought forms and miraculous ideas, visualizations into the collective. They call it the Psi bank of the atmosphere to just support magical energy coming through. And so this is one example of that. Just calling in, how awesome would that be for everyone around the planet to have access to water that just Gaia just says, here you go, provides this beautiful natural spring where it's just harmonically aligned and it doesn't do anything adverse to the people or to the area. It's just this beautiful, divine, miraculous happenstance of, wow, look, like all of a sudden we have water here, and that's part of that collective dream weaving of all people, all beings, easily and effortlessly having the basic needs organically just coming through so that everyone has clean water to drink and to cook with, to cleanse themselves. So the water started coming in that way, in this beautiful invitation to just send that out as like a prayer. And again, inviting that it's as is appropriate, in divine alignment with divine will, in accordance with divine law. A few weeks after that, the water elemental came into my reality with a splash. No pun intended. First, what happened after this visual prayer came through, I actually got news of a new spring popping up, and it looked like it was in Europe. It was hard to tell where this man was. It was shared on David Wolf's Telegram channel, and it's this amazing footage of this man, and he's walking, and there's mountains around him. It looks like he's kind of almost in a valley, and he's walking and filming the ground as he is walking, and you're seeing these beautiful, delicate little rivulets of water flowing at a gentle downstream, and he keeps going up and up to find the source, and then he actually takes the camera and puts it into a little pool of water, and you can actually see the water bubbling up and out of the earth. And it was just so amazing to see that, because that was part of the visual that we had had, and it's part of that dream, that collective dream of all beings having ample access to resources and for free. So that was really beautiful, and I was so moved to see that and celebrating it, and just really starting to feel the presence of water as an elemental being and as so many other forms. So that was very moving. And then within a day or two, I shattered my ceramic water dispenser. Part of moving to the Pacific Northwest was for the waters. We were actually called here for the waters because there's rivers and lakes and a lot of rain. So actually the waters called us here almost 2 years ago. And so it's interesting to see how that keeps expanding. Another way that the water is in my daily life, essentially, is that we have aquifers here. And so I can go downtown and fill a bottle with water that's straight from the aquifers, and it's like 50 years old. It has a high magnesium content. It's kind of a dream come true to be able to take these 5-gallon bottles and go and fill them up. It's always a dream come true for me. And so that's where that visual comes from too, of like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if every village and city and town had access like this? Like, that's how it should be, you know, in my opinion, of kind of that Aquarian age abundance codes. So I had a shoulder injury, and I was struggling to lift the 5-gallon bottle with my left arm because it's not my dominant arm. And what ended up happening was that somehow I knocked the ceramic water dispenser over, and it fell off of its stand and just shattered on the tile floor. I mean, it just shattered, and it was a very cathartic and satisfying shattering. And I was like, ooh, I feel like some energy just like cleared, something just shifted. And I was looking at the symbolism of that event, like, wow, look at that, the water can't be contained. That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna make a little mental note of that and write that down. Then the same week, we had the king tides affecting the Pacific Northwest. So we had king tides of massive walls of water that were hitting the Washington and Oregon coastlines. And our downtown city was actually flooded for a few hours when the tide rose. And it was pretty remarkable because people were going around downtown like with mason jars chasing jellyfish that were in the water around the streets so that they could help them go back into the sound. And that was really sweet. So there's the waters again. And I thought, wow, king tides, okay, that's making me think of Poseidon and Neptune. Very interesting. And then the next day, our dishwasher died. It's an older dishwasher, and when the repairman came to come and fix it, he said that it was clogged. So I was cracking up about all of this. This literally all happened within 1 week at the very beginning of January. And I was just like, okay, there's a lot flowing in already with all of this water. And then that was the same week that California had all of that flooding. So the West Coast got slammed with water, and it was just really fascinating to see all of this. So I was just open to it, just taking little notes and knowing that I would be guided, you know, into reading all of these events as dialogue from the divine. And the key takeaway from all of this is that the waters will not be contained. And one of the phrases that I heard was, this cannot be denied. Do not deny your waters. The waters cannot be denied. And I thought, wow, this is really powerful. And hence the length of this transmission for everyone, because it's showing us how powerful our emotions are. I mean, we really are learning. It's kind of beyond our conception because things are quantum. So there's only so much that we're able to see or perceive more easily as we are transitioning to see in other ways, to understand from the inside out what is going on. And our emotions are a superpower, and we're going to get more into that. But I really wanted to make sure that I elaborated on that phrasing of to not deny ourselves, to no longer deny our feelings. Maybe that could summarize the entire podcast. So now we're going to get into water, and what does it mean for our experience as spiritual beings having a human experience? So the waters are also symbolic of emotion and the act of flow and purification. So what I'm sensing from this year, with all of this water truly present, as well as these kind of gentle and nurturing qualities available for us to have more space between things in our life, so we have a little bit less activity, more time for healing and revitalization, self-care, all of this really important kind of self-love. I'm seeing that this is showing us that we are preparing for very massive collective levels of processing and exiting the 4D, the fourth dimension. What we have been taught and shown and experimented with is that a lot of us, even in the consciousness game or that are seekers of consciousness, until we do an immense amount of emotional clearing, we're still in the 4D. And so we could be mostly out of the constraints and the old paradigms of the third dimension, of that kind of that different form of that matrix. And we could have experiences where we're feeling that love and that magic of 5D. And it's almost like we have a foot in between the worlds, like we're exiting. We're not totally in our heaven yet, our heaven on earth, how we define that for ourselves. We're still working hard on an internal level so that our reality will match what is within, and it will show us what we have always hoped for, dreamed for, and seen. So there's an immense amount of internal clarification that has to happen for our heaven to appear in the external reality, to be made physical. We have to do that internal work first. And that's where that kind of battle program, that battle of our awareness, the spiritual battle, all of these kinds of themes of this tug of war can come in. It's very fourth dimensional energy, and it's all tied into our emotions and our patterning, our programming, and maybe even trauma patterning. We've all experienced so much the last 3 years with everything that we have seen and held the last 3 years. Then you want to combine that with our entire life. This is the year of major emotional release, major emotional self-intimacy. A lot of people are having these beautiful experiences of their hearts opening, and that looks different for everybody, and it depends on how much work they've done, how self-aware they are. For some, it's a psychological break, and they could require some support with that. For others, it's just a simple, their heart pops open and they realize, oh my gosh, I've been holding on to this grief from this, relationship that was 30 years ago, and I never really realized that I was carrying that around, that I was holding that within myself. And it's so for some people, there's these pieces of this journey where it's easier to let go, and then there are some elements of it that are harder to let go because they're older programs, if you will. Maybe we've had more experiences of self-fulfillment with what we've held within, what we were perhaps taught or what was projected onto us by others, and we believed it, so then it was true for us, and it kept looping until we decided it wasn't true. So some of these things are newer and easier to see now than they were ever before. Some of them, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm done, and it's really easy and it's a clean break. And others take a little bit more of a concerted effort and presence to clear. And all of this being said, just to clarify, the awakening journey and opening our heart for the first time is the hardest task that any of us will face. It requires the most amount of courage, and also surrendering all judgment to see any ugliness, any distortion that we have within. We cannot judge our separation or density or distortion. We have to be willing to see. It's not all unicorns and butterflies and roses. There's shadow work involved. There's distortion, corruption of every type involved with certain elements of what we are decompressing. So yes, there are elements of this process that are heinous, but the whole point is to remember that regardless of the qualities we could define something by, it's all God. It's all good. Let's unify it and bring it into wholeness and no longer separate ourselves off. Where we judge our process or where we have flaws or are less than perfect within ourselves is where we hold ourselves back. And many of us use use it as an excuse to keep the heart buttoned up because of the shame or grief or guilt or judgment or any of those pieces that are not really our true identity. So I want to make sure that I'm clear that aspects of the awakening journey are really ugly and gnarly, but the beautiful part is coming out the other side and feeling that clarity and that expansion and ultimately the freedom. It's all about the freedom. So this is an amazing year to release all that is held within. Memories, stories, it's a massive liberation, a huge purge of all of the old which no longer serves. Our hearts will feel lighter, bigger, brighter, and more spacious with every release. And so what we want to encourage everyone with these waters is that there is a beautiful layer of support here with Divine Mother. And the encouragement is to find and to feel the precious sacred in your crystal tears. Let them flow. Release grief and anger as needed, and really holding the sacred of this. Releasing judgment, and support yourself and all in their emotions as well. Because what's happening is we are breaking open any of those rules that are left from the 3D programming around emotions. We are realizing that emotions are our superpowers, and that vulnerability actually is not a derogatory word or a weakness or a lack of personal empowerment, actually quite the contrary. And it means an open, expanded awareness. It means all of a sudden we have these open doors to perception beyond what we ever could perceive before, because we are awakening, being feelers again. So what's fascinating about this is as we actively engage and are present with the clearing process and allowing ourselves to feel, all of a sudden the weight is being released from our hearts, from our shoulders, from our bodies, and our minds on many levels. And we have more space within us now to really activate our higher dimensional capacities for deep perception, meaning the clairs, meaning our spidey senses, these gifts and abilities, some of which we've already been activating. And there's going to be now deeper layers of these activating because we have room for them all of a sudden. So there's this collective level opportunity to clear karma, to really exit the 3D, to really start to work on being aware of where we are in that battle, perhaps fighting ourselves to not feel, having resistance, any of that kind of energy. And this is supporting us to exit the 4D realms and graduate and initiate that fifth dimensional process of living through the heart. So in order for us to get there, we have to be willing to go into the heart space, right? And see with and be with. And initially there's a great deal of resistance for us on many levels to go there into our emotions, because they feel really big, they feel powerful and strong. Maybe we feel like, oh my gosh, if I go there, it's just going to be too much and I'm never going to recover from that. These are all just programs. So it's really important to start to allow ourselves to see the resistance and say, oh, thank you for showing me that what this resistance is actually telling me is that there's a really powerful pull on the opposite end of this experience. So the invitation is to be persistent and patient, positive and perseverant, to sit with and allow our emotions to come through. And the waters in our tears are very sacred. And we were shown how the tears are crystalline, and there's a lot of beautiful scientific data about the composition of our tears. And it's just very interesting when we start to really look at our physical experience through this sacred lens. So what we want to do is really rewrite how we feel about our feelings. And for me, this is a newer experience these last few years of really diving in and having the courage to feel deeply and fully, and to have that amount of self-care and devotion to, oh, wow, I feel kind of off. What do I require? What is my consciousness asking for? What aspect of myself is having that feeling or that experience? It's always letting me know when there's a tugging of my peace that there is some element there that could use some more love to be then brought into that piece. And so it's starting to really reframe all of this. And again, it's kind of how the 3D, everything is upside down, inside out and backwards, right? So we were programmed to believe that being vulnerable was a weakness or a less than. And we prided ourselves, depending on your programming, but most of us were in this kind of programming of being like made of steel, made of ice. Nothing could get in. Nothing could derail you. And we were much more mechanical, like machines, like robots instead. And so this is an incredible opportunity. And like I shared, the more that we dive in, so the more that we basically with this part of the process, you get what you put in. So it's really having the tenacity to continue to go for it, whatever is presenting itself, and not let it be the end all be all for you, but to continue to sit with the emotions as a student with a master teacher arriving at your door. You want to sit with that guest, serve that guest some tea, and you want to engage in a conscious dialogue and conversation and see what can be learned and what can be transformed from the inside out in the experience. As we clear baggage and release tension, then our heart opens, things start to look really different because we are starting to feel them. And the invitation here is, remembering that this process looks different for everyone. So if you see someone having a hard time emotionally, like maybe they're angry or they seem really frustrated, they seem kind of blocked or pent up, it will start to let you know, oh, I think they're going through a beautiful experience. And it may not feel very beautiful in the moment. It may be challenging for everyone involved. And so the reminder here, the invitation to have compassion for ourselves and others, because feelings are deep. The waters are deep and complex, and there's a lot of story involved. And so we're kind of disentangling from a lot of story, and that eventually things become much more simple because we've cleared piece by piece as it arises. So there's a lot of uprooting of these old stories and the emotions that we've actually been carrying and holding in our hearts, and they haven't felt very good, all of them. And it's amazing also, once we start to release these, just how massive your chest feels. Like your chest, like your physical chest and the heart center will almost feel like it's hollow, and not in a bad way, not in a lacking way, in that it is as broad as the expanse of the sky. There's a massive opening, and you start to feel in your physical body and your energy levels and your consciousness and in your life, you start to see the results of this work that you've put in to free yourself, which supports everyone around. Another beautiful theme of this year is to engage our inner wise one, our wisdom keeper, our ornate internal mystic sage. What's interesting about this is that typically we see an elder presenting with this archetype. And what's come through really strongly for me, and I've been so excited to share and to invite, is a sacred child aspect. So we actually have both ends of the spectrum. We have an ancient, wizened elder, and that we could have several forms of this. And we also have a divine, magical child. And the child aspect is about 5 to 7 years old. So we invite you to sit with that and see, maybe it's you at 5 to 7 to 9 years old in this life. And really have fun exploring, who are these archetypes within me? See what age the divine child sits. See your inner shaman or Merlin, perhaps, the inner cosmic grandmother. And another powerful key code is the shield of the grandmothers and the grandfathers. So there's this very powerful tribal element coming through of our own inner collective in our unified state of being with this archetype of our inner wise one. And again, there is an elder form, and then there is a young child form. So I look forward to your exploration of that. Some of the other little keywords for this energy are your inner genius, the pure visionary, and the feeler. Another major experience that is coming in even more palpably for us is we are going from a linear construct to a quantum reality, meaning that everything is energetic, meaning that everything is from the inside out instead of the outside in. So the old way we were programmed, and this is why the sages and the rishis always called the physical world, the physical reality, the Maya, the illusion, because it's not a fixed reality. It's actually a hologram or a virtual reality that's actually a projection of what we're holding inside of ourselves. And so what makes this kind of a very challenging dynamic until we're consciously aware of it is that everything outside of us may make us feel a certain way, and it may not be a positive because we are referencing from the outside. So we're seeking validation and affirmation and confirmation and love and worth, all of it, all from outside. And for any of us who grew up in the 3D matrix, it's like, well, none of it was about celebrating you for who you are. It was all about the flaws, and it was, just totally backwards. So this is a beautiful process of a self-referencing. And we covered this more in depth for the first quarter of 2023 energy report. So if you'd like to go more into that internal, there's a lot more in that energy report for you. With this linear to quantum, part of how this works with all the photonic light streaming down and all of the different solar eruptions and solar rays pouring down, it's a lot of light hitting the planet, illuminating everything. and there is an increase in the polarity or the duality that we see in the external world, and it's growing more and more extreme to support more and more individuals awakening, shaking themselves loose from the amnesia, from the spells of slumber. It has to get louder out there in multiple ways in order to show us where it is within. And so there's a process where we start to become uncomfortable with what we are seeing or experiencing, and that initiates a lot of activations for us to be the change, to speak up, to make a change, to start to pull our power back. And it's a redefining of our reality as energy beings. There's a lot more of the physical ascension process going on as things really get physical and much more palpable. And so this is all an opportunity to find our authentic core self, our light core, really identifying more with the soul. So this is a multidimensional perspective, again, reminding us to be able to see where we have a story and we want to see it as it's coming up, or where are we giving our power away to something outside? Where are we resisting feeling? Maybe seeing, the ability to see something and to have our awareness shine a light on something lets you know that it's important. It's all important. And so it's just reframing now what we are seeing instead of taking it personally or allowing it to perhaps activate old programs like victim, consciousness, lack, feeling separated or powerless. Those are all the separated off or distorted ego aspects of our being where we had wounds and trauma, and it's not the fullness of our being. And so that's why we started this podcast with the invitation for you to invite into your conscious experience the fullness of your being. You could say, universe, I want to know the fullness of my being. I want to live in that richness and that unified state and have such a beautiful flow of that peace and that oneness that it supports the collectives around me just by living in that stream. Another theme of 2023 that came through is this phrase, crystalline everything. And what they meant by that is that everything's going crystal. We are crystals. Everything is clarifying. There's a refinement process going on. It's all about crystal clear sight, this lifting of the veils off of our hearts, off of our consciousness. It's a very powerful purification. And with that, the word reset. So there is an amazing opportunity to start over. This is the real grand reset, to choose what is active within you, write your own story from your connected and higher self place, and continually recode and encode the programs. And so we want to share about this process of the recode and the encode process. So this is a quantum kind of consciousness where we are working with the programs and updating our consciousness like a software. So we are ensuring that as much as possible, we are connected from our unified state of being with an open heart. And you're going to feel the difference. It's very palpable when you feel open versus when you feel closed or pinched off in separation or distortion. There's a sense of feeling small, powerless, vulnerable, or having any kind of the victim mentality or lack programming. And so you want to really get clear with feeling the differences between those two. Feeling connected and whole and at one, or feeling disconnected and powerless and small. And this will become more and more loud for us to easily be able to choose, like, oh no, this isn't how I want to feel. So what do I need to do or feel or think about or allow or release, whatever the action is for you that is aligned? You just have to ask, what is it that is necessary for me to clear this, or to just return back home to my home frequency, which is peace and pure power, love and wisdom, your connected higher power state. Once you get clear on the differences, some of us, it's easy to just say, am I in heaven right now with my reality, or do I feel like I'm in hell right now with my reality? And then you want to bring yourself back into the empowered, unified state, the we, the collective consciousness within yourself, with the higher self, to then survey and take the appropriate measures as you are shown. So we always want to come from that unified state of being versus separation or distortion. So the example that we're shown about how to extract the program and then recode and encode ourselves with the new one. So we're replacing the old software and we're updating it with a new truth, which is the actual truth. So essentially, we're deprogramming the lies and all of the deception that we held within ourselves. So a beautiful visual for this is when Dumbledore is extracting the threads, the silver threads of thought forms and memories from his temples with his wand and dropping them into the Pensieve to be retrieved at a later time. He knew it didn't make any sense for him to carry around this baggage, that maybe there was some information that was necessary or important to review at times, but it wasn't worth carrying carrying around and shouldering this burden anymore. It wasn't helping his energy. So you can imagine yourself, whenever you encounter the program, to extract it, pull it out from yourself, say thank you for showing me, and then you want to basically create a balancing affirmation of what is true. You're going to focus on and declare what is true, and then you're going to insert it into yourself, into your heart, into your fields, into your memory banks, and you're going to replace that old outdated program with the updated software. And you can tap it into the sternum, which is that sacred heart entrance at the center of the collarbones at your chest. This is the process of how to recode and encode yourself, working just one piece at a time, one program at a time, or belief system, or an old echo, remembering that we have brain grooves, right, in our brain. It's called corticalization, and those grooves are made from habitual thought forms, and they just run deeper and deeper. And so we know this with neurolinguistic programming, or the wonderful work of Rick Hansen. He says neurons that fire together wire together. So if we can start to look at this as we're updating the software, and then we are hardwiring in those changes into the body, into the mind, into the reality, and the spoken word of affirming is a very powerful way to do that, to command your reality. So when we say crystalline everything, there's this beautiful Christed energy, and it's like a sparkling coating on everything. And there's a lot of beautiful phenomena happening in the sky and with the sun, and these incredible pastel hues, and just amazing experiences happening that are kind of always reminding us or pulling us back into the divinity, into the magic, into the new earth frequencies that are here. And one of the best ways to connect with them and to feel them is in nature, just to observe and be a part of nature. And so we're being shown how this Christed energy is really just raining down, and it's kind of this beautiful blanket of loving, soft, pure energy. And it's on everyone, everything, and as it's aligned for each at soul level, more pieces of the separation and the old story are just going to fall off, and it's going to start to get really easy for people once they come into feeling and feeling safe feeling and start to embrace the emotional journey and seeing that it's just a process, that it's just energy and information, right? Emotion is energy in motion, it's information. And so we were over identifying before because we felt too fragile to handle anything. Now we're really engaging our mastery and our avatar consciousness, and we're starting to understand that what we are being shown is just information for us to work with. It's all magnetics. It's nothing personal. No one's doing anything wrong. So all of a sudden, people are going to start to have these experiences where it's really easy for them to be like, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that anymore. I can't do this anymore. It just doesn't feel right. And all of a sudden, there's this kind of blooming energy within everyone, which is that Christed energy, that crystalline knowingness at the center of their heart, where it's like, I'm not feeling it. And what am I feeling? What feels right to me? What really appeals to me now? So all of creation is going crystalline in its own way, from density to harmony, and really these beautiful, beautiful themes of heaven on earth. And that's unique for each individual. And so the question with that is, what is your vision for heaven on earth? For yourself and others and the entire planet? What is your dream job, your dream life, your dream expression? These are things often that we have had in our hearts, in our minds, our whole lives, or we came in even encoded with the memories, knowing one day it would be true, it would happen. Well, the time is now to create these experiences, to dream them awake, to allow them to come in. So first we must define what is heaven on earth for us. What does that feel like and look like for everyone, for ourselves and our own reality, our own unique individuation, and then collectively for the whole planet. And again, doing this in a way that is inviting in a very broad and beautiful harmonic, not specifics, right? Not controlling or defining the experience for others, but really going through, well, what would just feel amazing? And so an example of that would be, I believe that if every village or city or town, or however the different parts of the world and the different people of the world call where they reside, how amazing if everywhere where there's a group of people living in community, this magical, beautiful spring just bubbles up from the earth to support the community with clean, fresh water. To me, that's such a magical and beautiful notion, and it feels really good to think that. And I personally think that all beings deserve to have that access, and that resources ought to be free and abundantly flowing in this way. And that's the nature of the 5D and the newer worlds, the higher realms, is that abundance. That would be an example of dreaming awake a vision. Another one would be that everyone has beautiful healing eating organic, natural foods. And that's just how we do things because it makes sense. It's better for the environment. It's better for everyone else. It just makes sense. In the higher realms, a lot of things really make sense versus how we have been seeing them and all of the systems that are in a flux right now in the lower realms. In your envisioning process of heaven on earth, allow everything else, anything else, to fall away. And a wonderful tool that we would love to share with you is working with the fire elemental. Fire will help to burn away negativity, all which is not your own pure peace and your pure authentic self, your pure grace, and it will support you coming into higher clarity with your own connection to your source and your higher power. It is the light of truth, and so it will support clearing all negativity from your mind, your mouth and words, your body, your fields, and your environment. So here's a great example of a release ritual. So you can write down a list of all that you are ready to release and find a safe way to burn this if you have a fireproof burn bowl or a fire pit or a fireplace. So you want to write down what you're ready to release and then safely burn it. And you can take the ashes and like bury them in your yard if you have a yard, or do something sacred with them as an offering of transformation. The ash is super sacred in the mystical traditions of this transmutation. And you want to write down what you're calling in with all of this new space, all of this new energy, which has been freed up for you to dream and to create with. It's no longer hanging on to the old. That's a super powerful ritual that you could do. Another powerful theme and a phrase, an encodement that came through for this year is the harmonic convergence of the individual. Each of us are really being gifted the opportunity in this acceleration, which is intense, and yet it is so because we can handle it. We were made for this. So many of us are really present with a lot of various things happening with our human family, maybe activations with star family, things happening everywhere we are. We're seeing the shift happening on the planet. We're working through our own programming, right, and challenges and expansion and contraction phases, and really starting to find new pathways of communication with our higher self, embodiment of our mighty I am presence. And what this phrasing of the harmonic convergence of the individual is alluding to essentially is a unification of our being, of all of our aspects of being. And so the waters of this year are going to be so clarifying for everyone, this beautiful kind of ritual bath to support us in clearing away the dust of the past and being fully here in the now. So when we talk about a harmonic convergence, it's an alignment of our dreams, of our divine will, of our focus, our words, where our energy is going, what we are actively building and sharing and creating, and that all of it is lining up. So we're no longer feeling separated or disjointed or scattered, that we have to be multiple people in multiple realities depending on who we are encountering. We don't have to go into the office and tell everyone that we're a star seed and whatever. You can just go into the office and smile and be in your pure peace and exude that loving presence. And that inner peace is very palpable. You don't even have to say anything or necessarily do anything. It's just holding your authentic frequency of being. And this reverberates through everyone and allows them to synchronize with their own harmonic. So the harmonic convergence of the individual and their own reality. And we are migrating ourselves through this towards the 5D even more, as that becomes more of an individual and collective motivation to completely create the new world from within ourselves. And it looks different for everyone. It's actually quite simple. And it's just really starting to work again with, well, what does heaven on earth feel like for you? What would your daily life be like? What would your energy levels feel like? And what would you have energy for? Maybe you only had energy for work and you're so tired you come home and you go to sleep and then you have to get up the next day and repeat it. Well, how would it look for you to be productive and to be living your dreams of your creative expression or what you're passionate about and being able to have it all? What does that look like? Allowing yourself to burn any of the resistances or the buts or the shoulds that come up, even in just that own internal inventory, that own self-evaluatory process. And so we have had 35 years, almost 36 years this August, since the harmonic convergence of 1987. And at that point, that was an anchoring of the galactic codes, the Christed frequencies for the entire planet, for them to start being anchored onto the planet. So they've been here this entire time, and now we are invited to take that collective wisdom and activate our own individuation of that Akashic wisdom in our life, to allow all of it to converge, to allow all of it to unify. So that is that beautiful code of the harmonic convergence of the individual and their own reality, where everything is synchronized. Dr. Jose Arguelles, who had the lawoftime.org and 13moon.org, he was the founder who had the vision and brought forth the codes of the harmonic convergence in 87. And now is the opportunity for us to take it to the next level and live it fully, to really claim our experience and who we are, and that we are sovereign and divine, and that we came here to live the life of our dreams. And of course, it has to be aligned, right, with our divine self and divine will. But we all have ideas of what that is. And for some, it's being an artist. Things that feel so ludicrous if we look at it through the lenses of the old paradigm, right? Lastly, we will end with the most beautiful portion to support and wrap all of this up. Kuan Yin has come through to share that she is here in her avatar consciousness to support us this year. She is here to support us with the waters of compassion, and she's pouring these waters over our hearts and through our minds and through our lives so that we can feel more than ever before without fear of compromise. She's here to support us in this deep expansion and embodiment and embrace of water as a master teacher in our lives to awaken our atomic super being potential as we surrender, trust the flow, trust ourselves more than ever before, that we can handle the emotion as it arises, and actually anoints us to dive deeply into what arises and to sit with whatever it is, the emotions, the memories, whatever it is, to sit with the waters, what they're bringing to us, to sit with it humble and empowered as the seeker to the master teacher. And so she invites us to remember and to play with the notion that emotions are visitors. Welcome them. Activate your Zen. So she is here to support us with these infinite waters of compassion for ourselves as we become more accustomed to mastering this experience of having emotions, and how incredible to be an instrument in this way. And we could be having a neutral experience. We're just going along, present, and then boom, we get hit with an emotion, whether it's a trigger or sadness or fear or grief or projecting into the future. It's like, oh, wow, look at that. I just had this experience pull me off of my center. This is amazing. What is this? Let's investigate. And so we're really turning more into the investigator and the detective of our consciousness experience. So Kuan Yin is here to support us again with infinite waters of compassion flowing. And I will be doing a beautiful activation meditation for you all with this. So keep your eyes out for that. I want to thank you all so much for sticking with me. I know this is a really long transmission, as I thought it would be. And we're at almost an hour here. So wow, if you're still here, thank you so much. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. Just please know that it's all beautiful and divinely aligned. We got this. We just have to be present with what is, and don't let the head run off, into the sunset and creating all of these stories. Don't let the emotions carry you away like wild horses. Just say thank you so much, feel, and allow yourself to be brought back. This is the most beautiful, massive purification and kind of a simplification of our being, where we will become more open, more present, more connected, even more in touch with our truth as pure crystal vessels of consciousness here to celebrate, to create, and to share. So I thank you so much for joining me for this transmission. Look forward to hearing in the comments below. Please hit that like button to support us. We want to spread as much light through the YouTube platform as we can possibly contribute, right? And also wanted to let you know that the Living Crystal Library is now open on the Mystery School site. This is a free resource for you if you are feeling called to dive into the next level. There's a lot of kind of Jedi mastery here, some wonderful shamanic components of contract revocations, and a lot of wonderful opportunities to really pull our power back from all of these old systems. So this too will support us in this transmission, this kind of transmigration, a translation from 3D to 4D to 5D, becoming more and more a part of our physical reality as we work with it, as we call it in. So thank you again so much, sending you all so much love, and I will see you for the next transmission.